So I recently just watched Thunderbolts, and I have to say, wow, this is exactly the kind of movie that I wanted from the MCU. If you can't tell, I love the movie and I wanted to talk about it, and I also wanted to do a quick drawing of the characters in my style, so that's what you're seeing right now in the background. I'll also try to keep it free from any major spoilers, but yeah. For context, I've been a huge fan of the MCU ever since the first Iron Man movie came out way back in 2008. I was in middle school at the time, and I remember watching this in theaters with my family, and I was just blown away. I've been a die-hard MCU fan ever since, and I gotta say, I've definitely been eating good. Well, until the last few years where the MCU kinda hit a low point, but that's why I think Thunderbolts came at a good time. This is also a film that, in my opinion, doesn't really require you to watch all the previous movies to really enjoy it. Sure, there's going to be a lot more enjoyment if you have seen them, but it's definitely not required. Thunderbolts is about a ragtag group of losers, kind of like 2016's The Suicide Squad. The big difference between this movie and The Suicide Squad is that Thunderbolts is actually good. Unlike the first Suicide Squad movie, this one features a very likable cast that's emotionally deeper than they first appear, and that's probably one of the major aspects of why I love this movie. Post-Endgame, Guardians 3 is probably my favorite MCU film, and Loki Season 2 is definitely my favorite MCU show. Something these two properties have in common, and something that the Thunderbolts does as well, is letting the emotional moments really play out. Yes, there's great action and writing and cinematography and CGI, but there's also so much more to explore with these characters, and these movies excel at that. Thunderbolts isn't afraid to let their characters really feel their emotions and to let these heavier scenes play out fully. While other MCU entries would oftentimes use humor as a crutch to avoid exploring the sentimental, heartwarming, and sometimes outright depressing, this movie welcomes it. Thunderbolts lets you truly get into the heads of these characters, and we can embrace the emotions that come with it. Whether it be joy, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, and the rest of the Inside Out crew, this movie doesn't shy away from any of it and ultimately puts the trust in the audience to be engaged and to stay engaged. The action in this movie is also a load of fun. There are a lot of great set pieces that take place, that alongside the fun choreography, and we have an exhilarating movie. My favorite action sequence, without spoiling too much, happens in the beginning of the movie, and all I'll say is that it's a hallway sequence. Just more of that, please. But that being said, the action is great, although it's not the main focus of the film overall. This movie is also so much smaller in scale than other MCU entries, and that's such a huge benefit for me. There's no insane multiversal threat, no hopping from planet to planet, no insane CGI fest of a quantum realm universe that takes place between the molecules, which I guess in that sense that would make Ant-Man Quantumania the smallest scale, literally, but this movie is so much more grounded and it just tells a more tighter story. All in all, this movie puts the main focus on this ragtag group, and that really grounds the story in such a positive way. Another major aspect of the movie that I loved has to be our main cast of characters. They all had their part to play, and the chemistry between these unlikely heroes was off the charts. I want to highlight a few of the cast that really stood out to me. It's to no one's surprise that Florence Pugh is a standout performance in this movie. She oftentimes is in most of her appearances, but she was able to really portray this confident and snarky character that's possessed with feelings of loneliness and just being lost. David Harbour is another one that was just phenomenal. He's oftentimes used as the comic relief character, but even then he knows how to show a lot of depth with his words and his actions, especially when it comes to Yelena. He may say the wrong thing 99% of the time, but the 1% is where it matters most, and there were moments in this movie where I just got a bit teary-eyed from his performance. Wyatt Russell was one of the better parts of the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, which is a show that I really didn't like all that much, but luckily he's able to expand on his character into this movie and just show, the depth that John Walker has. And lastly, we have Lewis Pullman, who you might know from Top Gun Maverick as Bob, but now you can know him as Bob in this movie as well. And initially, I was very upset when I heard that Steven Yeun had to step away from playing this deeply troubled character, since this role kind of seems tailor-made for him. He's such a phenomenal actor, and I feel like he really would have nailed the role, especially after seeing Netflix's show Beef. But yeah, after seeing Lewis Pullman as Bob, I couldn't help but feel really happy that everything ended up turning out the way it did. He did such a great job with this character, and he's easily the highlight next to Florence Pugh. It's not even the way he delivers his lines or the way he carries himself in the role, but mainly his little facial expressions, the little twitches on his face as he's unsure of himself, the determined stare as he finds someone who believes in him, and just like the uncertainty on his face at times. There's so much nuance at play, and he just knocks it out of the park. There are other minor pluses like the humor, not everyone is snarky, not everyone is quippy. They make jokes that fit each other's characters really well, unlike movies like Thor Love and Thunder, where it's just joke after joke after joke, and every character just happens to be the same quippy and snarky, and it gets pretty old pretty quick. This movie has a good balance between the serious and the funny. Thunderbolts also does a great job of visually depicting light and darkness, which I thought was really interesting. There's also just some great CGI moments, especially in the last act. There's some, really awesome set pieces. The score was also great like usual, and one thing I loved that I thought was funny, and it's not really a spoiler, but basically the city of New York acted like the city of New York. New Yorkers are oftentimes disinterested with the happenings around them, so seeing that happen here was actually very funny. I know that all I'm doing is singing this movie's praises, but I really feel like it deserves it. Yes, it's not perfect. The CGI at times is wonky. There's some cheesy one-liners here and there. There's some, clear, clunky expositional dialogue. And there are characters that are heavily underutilized. Even Bucky was rushed into the story for reasons. But at the end of the day, this movie does a job of making a relatable and grounded story that sets up future installments in a way that doesn't seem forced. Finally, it seems like the MCU has found its footing and is headed towards the right direction. With Fantastic Four and Doomsday coming up, I really hope they continue to land hit after hit and just build upon this foundation. I know they can go back to the heights that they can reach, it'll probably just take some time. There were 2 credit scenes, and the first one was very funny, while the second one had such a good, peek into what we can look forward to in the future, and I just loved it. Also, the credit scene itself with all the newspaper and magazine articles and drawings was really fun to look at, and I thought it was just really good overall. That being said, I've said enough, I feel like. Let me know down below your thoughts if you've seen it or plan to see it, if you liked it or didn't like it. I don't know, I just thought the movie was fantastic.
Say that again?
I also hope you enjoyed my quick drawing of these characters in my style. This one was a bit tougher than I originally had anticipated, but I think it looks okay. I'll probably have different layers showing to visualize the whole process at once, but yeah, please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more, and I just hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, and goodbye.